My name is Jules, and this is Music and Love Heal. So this video is about why I believe the study of classical music is important and beneficial. So first, let's have a little history. Classical music, now we're discussing Western classical music, Bach, Mozart, Beethoven, Puccini. Of course, there's Indian classical music and music from all realms of the world, which is sophisticated and important. This purpose in my training specializes in Western classical music. So we have the fall of the Roman Empire, medieval times, Gregorian chant, that is music for the church, by the church. 9th century, they start to write music down. 1400 to 1600, we have the Renaissance. We're still writing for the church, by the church. Big Gothic cathedrals, lots of choir music. And then 1597-ish, we have our first opera. And that's when classical music really starts to evolve beyond just the church into secular music. That goes on. And in today's day, we still have classical music composed, and it's very different than it was in, let's say, the 1600s, the beginning of the Baroque period. It is a living organism, a living art form, and it evolves beautifully throughout the centuries. So, why do I think people should study? First of all, classical music makes you smarter. And that is not just a saying, but it has been scientifically proven. The complexity of classical music literally helps grow your brain, stimulates the prefrontal cortex, responsible for learning and memory, helps improve executive function, transference of skill. It does a lot. It boosts IQ. And one of the real tragedies is that too many people do not have access to classical music. It is an elitist type of art form. It is very expensive to take lessons and train on an instrument for 10 years to be proficient. It is one of the real egregious income disparity things that exists. I'll talk about in the United States, but I'm sure all over the world, right? So those that can afford to take lessons all through their childhood, which grows their brain, improves their IQ, and does all of these beneficial neurological things that helps them achieve later in life. And those that cannot afford this do not get the same academic and psychoneurological benefits. One of my purposes in this life is to try to help as many people learn classical music, help develop their brains without the egregious barrier to entry that is the great financial expense of lessons. I'm specializing really in singing. I am a pianist, but I imagine many people can't even afford to buy a keyboard, so I'm going to work a lot with singing first. So there are a lot of singing courses online, and I will be honest and say I really haven't watched any of them. I've taken little glimpses. I want to find my own style. I want to find my own flow. I do want to specialize in classical music, and it also makes it easier because it's all public domain. And so I will say that I hope this is a unique offering in the YouTube sphere, and there will be no tricks or quick fixes for vocalizing, but this will be slow foundational training that I hope will benefit singers, amateur and professional alike, in their own endeavors within their own genres of pop, musical theater, R&B, hip hop, gospel, whatever. All right, so classical training is really good for you. It can seriously help avoid potential vocal damage by training your instrument slowly, properly in the foundational technique that really has been refined for about 400 years. So there is something to the technique of classical music, because for 400 years, people have been singing with it, and it is a superior singing technique as far as preserving the instrument. So it's sort of like football players and ballet. They train in classical ballet to make them more flexible and nimble on the football field. Ditto with yoga. So I will say, like, if you're a jazz singer or a musical theater singer, you can train in classical music, again, to give you the foundation and the flexibility, so when you go into your more sometimes vocally aggressive art form, you have this foundation to work with. Classical music does not, well, occasionally, but for the most part, does not use a microphone. So we as classical singers learn how to maximize our voice and create a lot of amplitude, a lot of volume without a microphone. How does that happen? It is psychophysics, the study of physics, how to direct the sound, where to direct the sound, the optimal placement of vowels, the optimal placement of the vocal apparatus. So these are all things I want to teach people so that they scream less and hopefully don't damage their instrument. Because once you go down the road of vocal damage, it's very hard to come back. So classical music can give you flexibility in your range, so you don't have two separate voices, chest and head, but creating a connective element between the two registers. Breath control, legato, control your dynamics. Head voice is very, very beneficial to sing in. You're stimulating your pineal gland, your pituitary gland. You're vibrating everything up here in your cranium, your skull. Very different than just belting from your chest. So psychospiritually, this has a lot of benefits. Classical music is its own language, and we know from scientific research that when you learn a new language, it greatly benefits your brain. So not only are you learning the language of classical music, but we will be singing in other languages. Of course, Italian, that's where it all started, in Italy with opera. So learning to sing in other languages, analyzing poetry from other countries, analyzing poetry from other time periods. These are all the study of humanities. It's like the evolution of the human spirit through time and space. And I truly believe in this day and age where we are being hyper-exposed to technology and virtual reality and all of that, I think it's probably a good balance to go back to the past and study these ways to keep us grounded here on Earth also. So these courses that I am developing are going to be very different probably than what you find on YouTube. I'm not a young girl. I am 45. I know sometimes I look young, but I am 45, and I have been training in music since I was 5. So that's 40 years. I've taken breaks the past few years as I go through my own personal journey of growth and evolution. But the training and the technique is there. I worked as an accompanist. I put myself through 3 degrees. And, well, in undergrad, I had help with the tuition, but I paid for my rent and all of that by accompanying singers. So I basically sat in on 10 to 20 voice lessons a week as the accompanist, plus my own. So the amount of exposure that I had to other forms of teaching, other teaching styles is vast. Because whereas if you're just a singer, you have one lesson a week, I had my one lesson and then my 10, 15, or 20, depending on the time of year or whatever, lessons also that I sat in on. So I think that's kind of what makes me unique. So following this, I'm going to do 3 videos on breathing. Everyone wants to know how to breathe better for singing, and breathing is the foundation. So we're going to go into breathing for singing. And following that, I will give you a nice lecture about vocal hygiene. And then in the next week or 2, I will be uploading some singing vocal courses. It will be classical music for medium-high female voice, and then I'll put one up classical for male. We're going to go with medium, not the extremities. This is YouTube. I don't want anyone to get hurt. So the last thing I'll say is singing is your instrument. It is your body. If your voice hurts, something is not right. If you're singing a lot of videos on YouTube and it hurts, something is not right. If you come home from work and it's hoarse and then you try to sing, that's not good. Your voice is a little tender. I don't want to say fragile, but the voice does not like to be used too much. It does not like to be abused. So we're going to talk a lot about how to live in a healthy manner with your instrument, and especially if you're performing currently, it's very important. Honestly, I fall off of my vocal health habits, like when I'm taking a break from my career, but when I get back into my career, it's imperative that I and all singers manage good vocal hygiene. So we're going to talk about that. So please like, share, subscribe, tell your friends. And always I say, please no hate. I really don't have time for that. But I do hope that you learned something, and I hope you enjoy. And if you have constructive criticism or feedback, feel free to comment. All comments have to be approved, so it won't show up right away. So thank you. Be safe. Please take care.